What if the most important invention in human history was not the wheel, the spear, or even language? What if it was something much simpler? Fire beneath a piece of food. Every day, billions of people cook without thinking about how strange the act really is. We take something hard, raw, or difficult to digest, heat it, and somehow turn it into something softer, safer, and easier to eat. Other animals use tools, solve problems, communicate, hunt, and even show remarkable intelligence. But no other animal has built a world around cooking. So why did humans start doing it? And more importantly, could cooking have helped create the humans we are today? To understand the mystery, we have to go back to a time before kitchens, restaurants, ovens, or even permanent homes. Imagine a human ancestor walking across an ancient landscape, surrounded by predators and competing for food. There are no farms, no refrigerators, and no supermarkets. Every meal has to be found, captured, dug up, or gathered. Most of the food available is tough, fibrous, poisonous, or simply difficult for the body to process. Then, at some point in our distant past, something changed. Our ancestors began using fire not just to stay warm or scare predators away, but to transform food itself. That simple discovery may have changed the direction of human evolution. Cooking does something remarkable to food. Heat breaks down tough structures inside plants and changes proteins in meat, making many foods softer and easier to digest. It can also destroy many harmful microorganisms and toxins, although cooking does not make every food safe. Most importantly, cooked food can provide more usable energy with less physical effort than many comparable raw foods. Your body spends energy digesting everything you eat, and a meal that is easier to break down can leave more energy available for the rest of the body. For an animal struggling to survive, that difference could matter enormously. But there is a problem with this story. We do not know exactly when humans first learned to cook. Fire leaves evidence, but ancient fire evidence is difficult to interpret. A patch of burned earth might have been caused by a natural wildfire. Charred stones might have been moved by later activity. And even when archaeologists find an ancient hearth, it can be difficult to prove exactly how regularly it was used. Some evidence suggests controlled fire was used by members of the human family hundreds of thousands of years ago, while other researchers have argued for much older use of fire. The debate is still open, yet one thing is clear. At some point, controlled fire became a central part of human life. And this is where the story becomes much stranger. Cooking did not simply change what humans ate. It may have changed what humans had to become. Our closest living relatives, chimpanzees, spend enormous amounts of time chewing and processing food. Raw foods can require long periods of eating simply to obtain enough energy. Humans, by comparison, have relatively small digestive systems and unusually large brains for our body size. A brain is incredibly expensive to run. It consumes a huge share of the body's resting energy, even though it represents only a small fraction of total body mass. So where did all that energy come from? One influential idea in human evolution is that cooking helped solve this energy problem. The theory is strongly associated with anthropologist Richard Wrangham, who argued that cooking increased the amount of energy humans could extract from food and helped support the evolution of our large brains. The basic idea is powerful. Once our ancestors could get more energy from each bite, natural selection could favor bodies that spent less energy on digestion and more on other demanding tissues, especially the brain. This does not mean cooking single-handedly created human intelligence. Evolution is never that simple, but cooking may have been one important part of the energy revolution that shaped our species. Look at the human body and the clues become even more interesting. Compared with many other primates, humans have smaller teeth, smaller jaws, and a digestive system that is not built for processing huge amounts of tough raw plant material. Our mouths are not designed like those of animals that spend hours grinding fibrous vegetation. We also have unusually high energy demands from our brains. Somehow, our ancestors had to obtain enormous amounts of energy without spending their entire lives eating. Cooking offered a possible solution. Instead of making the body work harder to extract energy from food, humans learned to make the food easier before it even entered the mouth. But there was another hidden advantage. Cooking could change the amount of time humans needed to spend eating. Imagine two groups of animals. One spends hours chewing raw food every day. The other can process food more efficiently because it has been cooked. The second group suddenly has time for something else. It can travel farther, make better tools, care for children, search for food, communicate, or simply rest. Over thousands of generations, even a small advantage in energy and time could become enormous. Cooking may have been less like adding another tool to human life and more like changing the entire operating system. Then came another unexpected consequence. Cooking could bring people together. Raw food can be eaten almost anywhere, but cooking creates a reason to stay near a fire. Someone has to gather fuel, someone has to prepare the food, someone has to watch the fire. Others may wait nearby. A shared meal creates a social space that did not exist in quite the same way before. The fire becomes more than a source of heat. It becomes a meeting point. This may have had profound effects on human behavior. Cooking requires planning because food often needs to be collected before the fire is started. It can also encourage cooperation because the process involves time, resources, and protection. A cooked meal is not always something an individual can simply grab and eat immediately. It can become something shared. Over immense stretches of time, the campfire may have helped reinforce social bonds, food sharing, communication, and cooperation. We cannot watch an ancient human family sitting around a fire, so we cannot know exactly what happened. But the connection between food, fire, and social life is one of the most fascinating possibilities in human evolution. There is an even darker side to this discovery. Once humans began relying on fire, they also became dependent on controlling it. A fire that cooks food can also destroy a shelter. It can burn a forest, injure a person, or attract unwanted attention. Controlling fire required more than discovering that flames were useful. It required learning how to maintain them, move them, protect them, and use them safely. In a sense, our ancestors were learning to control one of the most powerful forces in nature. That skill would eventually transform landscapes, technology, and human civilization. But if cooking was so useful, why didn't other intelligent animals start doing it too? This question exposes an important misconception. Animals are not incapable of using fire simply because they lack intelligence. Several species demonstrate impressive problem-solving abilities, and some animals can learn complex behaviors from one another. But cooking requires a very unusual combination of abilities. An animal needs to recognize that fire can transform food, control or maintain the fire, transport or prepare food, wait for the cooking process, and tolerate the risks involved. Most animals simply have no evolutionary reason to develop this entire chain of behavior. There is also a problem with the fire itself. Natural fire is unpredictable and dangerous. An animal that approaches a burning area risks injury. Even if it understands that cooked food is valuable, it still has to solve the problem of controlling the flame. Humans possess hands capable of manipulating objects with precision, strong social learning, and the ability to preserve knowledge across generations. These traits work together. A single individual might discover something useful, but the real power comes when the group remembers it and teaches it to the next generation. That ability to build knowledge over generations may be one of the biggest secrets behind human success. A young chimpanzee can learn from its mother how to use certain tools, but human children inherit an enormous cultural library. They do not have to rediscover fire, hunting techniques, shelters, or food preparation from scratch. They enter a world where previous generations have already solved countless problems. Cooking fits perfectly into this system. The knowledge of how to control fire could be passed from parent to child, then from one generation to the next, gradually becoming more reliable and more complex. And once fire became part of human life, it opened the door to far more than cooked meals. Controlled fire could harden wooden tools, process materials, clear vegetation, and eventually support technologies that transformed the planet. Much later, humans would learn to smelt metals, make pottery, produce glass, and harness combustion in machines. The campfire was not a modern factory, of course, but the basic principle was already there. Take a natural force that is difficult to control and turn it into a tool. There is another mystery hiding inside all of this. If cooking helped humans so much, why do we still enjoy raw food? Because cooking is not simply about making food more nutritious. It is also about taste, texture, culture, and tradition. Humans have developed countless ways to prepare food, from roasting and boiling to fermenting, drying, smoking, and baking. Food preparation became part of identity itself. Different societies built entire cultures around what they cooked, how they cooked it, and with whom they shared it. What began as a survival strategy eventually became one of the foundations of human culture. Yet perhaps the most important clue is not found in our kitchens at all. It is found in the human body. We are strange animals. We walk upright, have extraordinary hands, communicate through complex language, and carry around brains that consume enormous amounts of energy. Our ancestors somehow supported this expensive lifestyle. Cooking may have helped make that possible by changing the economics of eating. More energy from food meant fewer hours processing it. Fewer hours eating meant more time for other activities. And more available energy could support a brain capable of increasingly complex behavior. Still, scientists caution against turning this into a simple story where fire suddenly made humans intelligent. Human evolution was shaped by many forces: climate change, tool use, social cooperation, hunting, food sharing, ecological pressure, and cultural evolution. The exact relationship between cooking and brain expansion remains debated. We also cannot say with certainty that cooking caused the development of our large brains. The evidence is more complicated than that. What we can say is that cooking fits remarkably well with several major changes that distinguish humans from other primates. And perhaps that is why the question is so fascinating. We often imagine that humanity's greatest advantage was our intelligence. But intelligence itself may have depended partly on a much older breakthrough. Before humans built cities, before we wrote books, before we invented engines or computers, someone had to learn that food could be transformed by heat. We do not know who made that discovery. We do not know what they were thinking. There was no written record, no laboratory, and no scientific theory. There was only a fire, a piece of food, and a human ancestor willing to experiment. Imagine standing beside that ancient fire. The night is dark. Predators are somewhere beyond the edge of the light. A group of early humans gathers close to the flames. Something is roasting over the heat. The smell is different from raw meat. The texture is different. The food is easier to chew, more importantly. The people around the fire are doing something that no other animal has turned into a central part of its existence. They are not simply surviving in nature anymore. They are beginning to reshape it. That may be the biggest twist in the entire story. Humans did not become powerful because we escaped nature. We became powerful because we learned how to manipulate it. Fire was already here long before us. Heat was already transforming forests and landscapes through lightning and volcanic activity. But humans learned to capture that power, carry it, protect it, and use it for our own purposes. Cooking was one of the first ways we turned a force of nature into a technology. So why are humans the only animals that cook? The honest answer is that we do not know every step of the story. Other animals have remarkable intelligence, and the origins of controlled fire remain partly hidden in the archaeological record. But humans combined several rare abilities: precise hands, social cooperation, powerful learning, long-term planning, and a brain capable of accumulating knowledge across generations. Cooking gave those abilities an enormous advantage by making food easier to digest, potentially increasing available energy, saving time, and creating new opportunities for social life. The strange thing is that cooking feels ordinary to us because it has been part of human existence for so long. We turn on a stove and barely notice what we are doing. But every time you place food over heat, you are repeating an ancient behavior that may reach back hundreds of thousands of years, perhaps farther. The kitchen is, in a sense, the modern descendant of the prehistoric campfire. And behind every cooked meal is a reminder of the moment our ancestors discovered that food did not have to remain the way nature gave it to them. Maybe that is what made cooking so important. It was not just the invention of a new way to eat. It was the beginning of a new relationship with the natural world. Instead of simply finding food, humans began transforming it. Instead of accepting what nature offered, we learned to change it. And from that first controlled flame, an astonishing chain of events eventually led to everything from stone tools to cities, from metallurgy to machines, and from ancient campfires to the modern world. Long before humans built civilization, civilization may have started with something much smaller: a fire in the darkness and someone deciding to put food into it.